Well, good evening, everyone, and welcome to the Brian Crombie Radio Hour on Saga 960. A real pleasure for me tonight to introduce you to Marilyn Wetston. She is the owner of Marilyn's, the store, and she's also a host of From a Women's Perspective, which airs on AM 740 weekly. Marilyn Wetston, thank you so much for joining us. How are you? Welcome to our show.
Thank you for having me. I enjoy having conversations with inquisitive minds, and I understand yours is very inquisitive.
I'm very inquisitive. So you've had a show, and I've been told you've been dubbed the wardrobe doctor for 20 years. Tell me, how did you get involved in not only fashion but having a show on Women's Perspective on the radio?
Well, I started with my store in the late 70s. And about 20 years ago, I started my radio show From a Woman's Perspective, because everything I did was with and for women. And I'm inquisitive as you are, and I want to explore the world, because when you dress people, you're not just dressing a hanger and their externals, you're dressing their mind and their body, their experience, where they find themselves. So in order to build the integrity of the people that I work with, I was able to help them have confidence by learning things and empowering them so they could make informed decisions, not just about their life, but also about their clothes.
Given your experience in dressing people and in hosting your radio broadcast on A Woman's Perspective, can I ask you a question that's really perplexed me over the years? Are women really from Venus and men from Mars? Are we living on two completely different planets?
I think that we're all on a spectrum, and that men and women, there are more effeminate men and more masculine men, and there are more aggressive women and there are more passive women. And I think we're each unique, like a piece of art. And therefore, dressing someone is getting into their head and understanding them, because we're not all the same.
Really? Okay. So dressing is different, but what about activities and personalities? And, you know, I had this meme that went around on social media just the other day about, some females actually do like sports, don't talk during movies, and say what they really believe. Like, is that the impression that females have?
That's exactly right. Each and every one of us is unique. And that's why people date, to explore the possibilities and see what's inside that smile and behind those eyes, to know what the personality is. And by the same token, to do the same for themselves, to reveal themselves so that the match is good.
Really? So you think that's what the objective of dating is?
I think the objective of dating is getting to know people. Yes. And finding the right person and the right fit, as opposed to just finding good people, because there are a lot of good people out there. But if you're going to be dating with an objective of creating a match, I think you have to have that perspective.
Is there such a thing as a soulmate?
I believe so. For some people, they're blessed and they do find a soulmate. But I think there's also people who are good communicators and flexible and willing to work a relationship so that it becomes one. And that's really quite nice.
You seem to know people very well. Why is your show only about a woman's perspective?
Well, a woman's perspective is mine. You're welcome to listen, and there are all sorts of things that you will find interesting. But the reason I called it was a woman's perspective, because the questions are mine. You could call your show a man's perspective.
Maybe I should. That sounds like an interesting idea. We're chatting tonight with Marilyn Wetston. She's the owner of Marilyn's, a store. And I understand you're right down in the fashion district. Is that correct?
Yes, I started in the I started in the fashion district and I remained there, but I think I'm one of the few survivors.
And also hosts a weekly radio show on AM 740 called From a Woman's Perspective. We're going to take a break for some message time and come back with Marilyn and talk a little bit about fashion, particularly as fashion has changed so dramatically in the last little while, both I think from a regular standpoint, but also because of COVID-19. Stay with us. Welcome back to the Brian Crombie Radio Hour, Saga 960. A real honor for me tonight to interview a broadcast expert, someone who's been a broadcaster for the last 20 years, only as a side business to her main business, which is owning a women's dress store called Marilyn's down in the Fashion District. But her radio show is called From a Women's Perspective, and it airs weekly on AM 740. Ms. Weston, what's the secret to your success?
I think the secret to my success is that I do something that I'm passionate about and that I love, and that people know that I'm authentic and real with them, and that I'll give them my opinion, whether they agree or not, and I'm willing to learn from them.
Being passionate about what you do. I think that is a true secret, no question. What kind of designs and from where do you have in your store? Are they Canadian? Are they Italian? Are they American? What?
It's interesting you asked that. I had a call from someone just recently, and she said, "What labels do you sell?" And I said, "You know what? I don't sell labels, I sell clothing. And I do try as much as possible to sell things made in Canada, but it's more about the what of it, and if it has beauty and merit and fit and can work for someone, than where it originally started. I have the ability to purchase things Canadian. So when I do, I deal with like Joseph Ribkoff. I deal with a company called Up that is a 60-year-old Canadian company. I basically seek out Canadian product when I can.
You've got a beautiful, is that a necklace or a brooch on? Do you sell jewelry as well?
Of course, I sell all sorts of accessories. My baubles are usually under the jewelry store prices, so roughly $20 to complete an outfit. It's always been my thing to have scarves and shawls and interesting accessories and things that pull together a look so that when someone leaves, they don't have to start wondering what to do. They've got it all together.
Well, I don't shop for women's clothing, at least not all the time. But when I'm in a menswear store, I always like getting a poof or a handkerchief or something like that, or a tie, because I do think it completes the outfit.
Well, men have a different kind of idea of accessorizing, and it's changed over the years. So if you're going to wear your poof, I'm hoping that you're going to be somewhere formal.
No, I wear, even when I'm going to the office, I'll wear something in my breast pocket.
Really? Well, that's interesting, because I would have assumed that you wouldn't even wear a jacket in this day and age.
Well, as you can see in my home office, I'm not wearing a jacket as often, but I did interview just the other day the CEO of the Canadian International Fashion Film Festival, and we were both wearing jackets in honor of each other. I should have worn a jacket for you. I will before our second segment.
Actually, I like what you've done because it makes me feel very welcome and at home. So smartly casual works.
Oh, okay, that's great. How long has Marilyn's been open?
Marilyn's has been open since 1975.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
And what do you credit your long success?
Well, as I said, I love every day. So the days have gone by. I don't have a clock. I never race out the door because my day is over. I'm actually sorry to see it end. And I'm always happy to have completion and have met interesting people and helped them. So it's been a pleasure. My life is sort of a breeze.
What did you do before Marilyn's?
Well, my parents were Holocaust survivors, and they came to Canada in 1948. And my father was an entrepreneur, and he peddled door to door to get started. But eventually he ended up with a number of stores. And I'm told that when I was 7 or 8 years old, I stood behind the counter and you couldn't see me out, but I was saying, "Can I help you?" And so I've always wanted to help people. And it sort of was a game. What could I do for that person that would be the perfect fit for what they asked for and were looking for? And it's always been the game I play all my life.
You started Marilyn's in the 1970s, and it's now 2020, 2021. How has fashion changed?
Well, I think that we're more body conscious now. So things that we would not have a countenance to wear, fabrics have changed and fit of clothes have changed. So having a booty and showing it off is okay. And having basically décolleté and doing neck fill if you want it is okay. So things that are more permissible now. It's sort of like when the hemlines were raised in the early 1900s. All of a sudden, people saw ankles. So I think fashion is always evolving, and it's according to our value system, according to our environment. And as long as people are comfortable, and I always believe in creating balance and proportion and a piece of art for every person that's dressed so they are showing their best selves. So as much as it changes in terms of what's available, the end result is the same. A person that's empowered, that's comfortable, that can go where they want to go and wear clothing that enhances them without any qualms.
So is ladies' fashion therefore what, sexier, more revealing today than it was in the 70s or 80s?
I think that it may be a little more body conscious. We're working out more. I mean, if we have ruffles and ridges, my art is to create an illusion that there aren't any. So people want to have balance and proportion. And same thing with gentlemen, right? You're wearing jackets, but if someone has a big pot belly and they wear a jacket and put things together, then it camouflages that and it gives them, it empowers them to look their best. So I feel that we showcase our positives, we hide our negatives. And because of the way society is today, and because there are new fabrics and things being cut in a different way, we can do things that we would never have thought were possible in the 70s.
You're right downtown in the fashion district.
Line and Queen.
Is that the place to be? Is it today online? Is it in a big Eaton Center or Yorkdale Mall? Tell me about what you think the future of the fashion business and the clothing retail business is going to be like.
Well, I think that it depends on your business, but really, I think that if you're good at what you do and you have something that people want and they can't get it anywhere else, they'll follow you. So I've always stayed in the downtown core on Spadina because that's where I started. But I have clients who fly in from all over the world and they're comfortable in downtown Toronto. If I moved to suburbia, I could evolve and be there. And I have evolved my business. At one time, I had a 10,000 square foot store. Then it shrunk to 3,000 feet. And in the last few years, it's shrunk to probably a boutique of about 1,500. But I still never have to say no to a person. I can be their personal stylist. I can, if I don't have what they need, which is rare, I can always get it. And they know that when they come in the door, they can be confident they're going to find the right thing. Do we have time for a story?
Yes, please.
So I had my store and a lady came in carrying a bag and she went into the fitting room and she said, Marilyn, I've got a wedding and I'm going to go to it. And I brought my shoes and I brought my bag. Have you got something for me to wear? And I said, when is the wedding? And she said, this afternoon. It was a Saturday. And I said, this afternoon. I'm 5'8" and she was probably about 5'3". I said, what if it needs to be hemmed? What if? She said, every time I've come here, I've driven 2.5 hours to the city and I've never left empty handed. I have confidence that you'll find something. And that's exactly what happened. And she left going to the wedding in her shoes with her bag, with a dress that we took the price tags off. So I think it's a matter of knowing what people need and also connecting with them so that you can find the right thing so that they're happy, they feel good, and they can go dancing.
How do you as a I guess a fashion consultant almost, or a personal dresser, how do you figure out what the perfect thing is for somebody?
I talk to them. I get to know them. I look at them. I see their posture. I read a book, I don't know, that you create a first impression. It used to be in 10 seconds. Now it's in a blink. And basically when someone presents themselves to me, I assess them by what I perceive. And then I'm able to relay that to them. And sometimes people don't see themselves. There are beautiful people in this world who don't appreciate the gifts they've been given. So I help them see that in a mirror, and they leave not just with clothes, but with an understanding of who they are and how they present, so that when they walk in to meet you, Brian, they can have a smile on their face and be comfortable and have their shoulders down.
When you choose something for people, do they usually say perfect, or do they say, no way, this isn't me?
It depends. Sometimes I like to lead fashion. I don't like to be a follower. I think that if things are moving forward and they're good and they're positive and they're going to change how you present, I usually present that to my clients. And I have a client who I dressed her mother before her, and I'm dressing her. And every time she comes in, I put her in a fashion forward outfit and she goes, it isn't me. And she's very conservative. And she said, we'll just leave it aside and we'll think about it. And recently it was a dress that was in the same fabric as I'm wearing, which is a matte jersey. And it sort of just skimmed her body. And she works out. She's got a beautiful figure, but she's conservative and she doesn't like to necessarily show it all off. So we put the dress aside and we went through other pieces, pants that, up pants that fit against the body and just pull on. And she'd never worn pull-on pants because it was a change for her. And she just blinked at me. She said, you think? And I said, yes. So we spent about 2 hours together. At the end of the time, we always do a yes pile and a no pile. My pile is the yes pile, and it's usually the one that wins. And there are a couple of if onlys, maybes, and we review those again. Generally, I bat 1,000. And it's not being a pushy salesperson. It's about getting into someone's mind and letting them look at the mirror and understand that this is what works for them now. And it's a language. I basically would say that I'm a language teacher. Dressing well is having the proper vocabulary, the right pieces to put together for the message of that day and for your life so that you're comfortable. So if you have that vocabulary, you can go anywhere in the world and open your suitcase or your closet, take out what you need and know that you're going to be appropriate for your setting if you give it thought. And doing a wardrobe is much like putting a jigsaw puzzle together. So your puzzle will be different to another man who's exactly your size, and mine to someone who might have exactly my statistics, because our inners are different and our perfect pieces that we relate to and that would showcase us and make us feel comfortable aren't the right ones. I've told people they could be gifted a brand new platinum puzzle piece doing a jigsaw puzzle, and you'd say thank you, and then you'd look at the puzzle you're doing and say, why did they give me this? I don't care if it's worth $10,000. It doesn't finish my picture. It doesn't fit in my puzzle. So it's useless to me. So cost of clothing doesn't matter. Where it orients and what label in it doesn't matter. What does matter is that it fits all aspects of the person who's going to wear it so they get their value.
That's interesting. So you're saying that two men or two females that are exactly the same size, because of their personalities, would choose and need to choose completely different garments.
Would likely choose. You know, I've dressed twin sisters identical, and they have very different personalities, different lifestyles, different senses of who they are, and they present very differently. So even though the same sizes would fit them and the same garments would fit them, it isn't necessarily that they have identical wardrobes. They're not 2 years old anymore.
That's absolutely fascinating. And you get that sense by just chatting with them and understanding their
personalities. It's a conversation. People, you see what they do, you talk to them, they relate. If they open up, the more they open up, the more you can help them because you understand more. The more there's understanding, the more you can empower them and the more you can gain a conversation that they can relate to and they can move forward.
You must have a huge skill at understanding people.
Well, I have a good skill with a good eye. And it's really, like thinking if I said to you, let's go swimming. And I take you to a pool. I said, we're going to jump off that upper, what is it called?
Diving board?
Diving board, thank you. And you say, well, Marilyn, how deep is the water? Is it cold? Is it warm? What am I going to find when I jump in? I don't dive. So if I hold my nose, how far down am I going to go? Well, those are all good questions because then when you're ready to jump, I'm not going to have to push you.
How has COVID-19 impacted your business?
Well, I've been closed to the world, but I haven't been closed for business. I'm very fortunate. The people that I deal with just have my number to the store and they call me. And I also talk about, I do a segment on my radio show that's a wardrobe doctor. So people call me. I just last night went out at 8 o'clock and I had brought home 5 pair of up pants for a lady who's bought them before and called me. And she said, I've gained that COVID-15 and my pants aren't fitting me and I'm not comfortable and I don't want to wear sweats at home. So do you have any? So I reviewed what she'd purchased before and I went up a size and I actually went up 2 sizes for a couple of pieces and I dropped off a half a dozen pair of pants. She can try them on and probably Monday or Tuesday when I have some time, we'll She'll come down from her building and she'll hand me what she doesn't want and keep what she does.
I have no idea what up pants are. What are up pants?
Up Pants is a company. They're a pull-on pant. They're Canadian. They've been in business for 60 years. They did a design that is a pull-on pant, which used to mean to women that was an elastic waist old lady pant. However, this is one up from wearing athletic wear, so it skims the body. It has a higher waistband, so it pulls in any loose tissue that someone might want to conceal. It has, because of the new fabrics, it has an element of spandex in it, so it stretches. And they do beautiful styles that people say, how many colors does it come in? And because it's Canadian and washable and affordable, people can say how many colors it comes in and buy more than one pair.
With COVID-19, we're all isolating at home. We're having too many conversations via internet and video and Zoom and things like that. Do you think people's clothing expenditure has gone down dramatically and our fashion choices have changed dramatically?
Well, I've changed what I market. I don't think I'm going to be selling any tailored blazers to anyone except a client who might work in a very structured environment and is still going into work. What I'm actually on the cusp of launching is a line buy-up and I've called it comfort wear. And I've always told people that they could do a wardrobe, 8 pieces of clothing for 24 changes. And men, you probably can relate to that because men have always been able to do that much easier than women. But in my comfort wear, it's made out of bamboo. It works for all sizes, small, medium, and large. It works for all times of day. Someone can sleep in it. Someone can wear it with slippers. Someone can wear it with sandals and go on a cruise. They can layer it and put a coat on top of it and go to the grocery store and look quite good. So basically, it's for a multitasking lifestyle. And I think that's where we're going. I don't think everyone's going to go back to the workplace. I think it's going to be, you look after your mom, you look after your kids, you look after your home, you go to work one day, you go here the other day, you have an opportunity to get a weekend getaway. What am I going to wear? And if COVID does stay longer, which I think it's going to be a while before we're actually back to old time, no mask living, then at least you haven't wasted your money because it does all things for most women.
We seem to be buying so much online. How can Marilyn survive in an e-commerce world?
Well, if you had asked me that a year or two ago, I would have told you that when that happens, I'm not likely to march to the drummer because I like interacting with people. I like the feel and touch of clothes. It's like having someone buy me a pair of shoes. The same shoe in 2 colors don't feel the same on my feet. I need to try them on. However, I'm partnering with a company and we're doing Right Fit today, which is, we're just on the cusp of launching it. I'm actually on the cusp of launching my comfort wear on my website. And the next step will be to incorporate this. And basically it's software that's designed and has the patterns for the manufacturer we're dealing with. So let's say Up. And if I'm an 8 in one manufacturer, I can say my measurements and I can say I'm an 8 in this manufacturer, and they'll put an avatar of me with my measurements in the clothes that I'm considering. And I'm going to be the personal stylist on this website. So I'm going to be able to do what I do in my store and say, you can see that little bit of a here, do you want to go up a size? Or did you think maybe that color wouldn't work well for you? If you're going to go for a photo shoot, maybe it should be bright and not stripes and lines and checks. So the combination should mean that I'll be able to do what I did in my store, help people find the right clothes. And when they get it, because they'll have been able to see themselves in the right fit, it's not likely that they'll return it.
So that personal consultation is still going to be critically important, you think, albeit done virtually rather than in person?
I believe that no man is an island. I think we need human interaction, that we can benefit from the experience of one another, that the interplay from people and other people's opinions give you something to think about and to consider before you make a decision. And I think an informed decision is a more comfortable one.
We're chatting tonight about fashion with Marilyn Wetston, who owns Marilyn's downtown Toronto at Spadina and Dundas. Is that correct?
Well, it's halfway between Queen and Dundas.
Halfway between Queen and Dundas on Spadina.
I'm at 200 Spadina. People have to seek me out now because I'm on the second floor and at the back of a building. But normally people call and set a date and time, and we spend time together. It isn't a matter of just walking through and browsing and looking at labels. It's about trying on clothes, about solving problems, and about achieving a wardrobe that speaks for a person.
And you're also on radio once a week with From a Woman's Perspective on AM 740. When do you air?
I air 8 o'clock on Saturday mornings and have been doing that, as I said, for 20 years. The From a Woman's Perspective website is merged under my website, marilyns.ca. That's MARILYNS.ca. And on that, there's a bar. So my store will be there. And it says on Zoomer Radio, and if someone clicks, then all my shows are archived so people don't have to get up at 8 o'clock. I find a lot of people have resistance to 8 o'clock, especially at COVID time.
No question. I'm the drive home guy at 6 o'clock, and lots of people will do the same thing for me because guess what? People aren't driving home from anything anymore.
That's true. You have to create awareness, and people have to love you to like you.
So you've been a fashion consultant, you've been a retailer, and you're a broadcaster. Are there learnings from each, similarities in each?
I think that the key part is, as I started, is that I'm very curious about people and information and about helping people learn what they need to know to be empowered and to live their best days. I'm happy when other people are happy, and I'm happiest when I'm giving. So I guess I'm like a juggler. I have more than one ball in the air, and I can't decide whether I like the red one, the blue one, or the green one better because they're each unique and special, and I can handle them all.
So this has been a fascinating conversation. I really appreciate it, Marilyn. One of the, you've said lots of interesting things, but one of the interesting things that has stuck with me is your comment about body image, and that we're far more conscious of our body images and positive about it. And that I think you said, and you pronounced the word differently, and so probably your pronunciation is right, but you're saying that if you have décolletage, people are more prepared to, or a booty, I think you also said, people are more prepared to show it off to their best advantage. I sometimes criticize my daughter in some of her clothing choices. Are you telling me I shouldn't anymore?
How old is she?
She's 23.
So she's a young woman and she's a forming person. So if she doesn't do her exploring now, when is she going to do it? We all have our time. I'm sure you had your time. And if you look back at when you were 23 and your clothing selection and maybe what you thought was beautiful was different to what you would think today. So I think
jeans, that's what I wore.
I think that you have to have confidence that you've brought up a woman that has good judgment, that can assess what would be appropriate for her in places. And I think you have the right to give your perspective so she can consider it. I'm not in favor of people. I have a nightmare picture, and it happened on Spadina last summer. There was a woman walking down the street, and she was very, very well endowed. She had watermelon breasts, I have to say, and she had a t-shirt on, round neck, and there was a tiger on this breast and a tiger on this breast, and they sort of moved towards me. And I didn't see the woman's face or her eye color, and I'll never forget the image. So good taste is always important, and presenting yourself well is important, but it's also important to be able to explore new and fresh ideas, because otherwise we stand still, and standing still isn't healthy for anyone.
It seems at times to me that almost everything that this younger generation does from a fashion standpoint, and often from an activity standpoint, is so they can post it on Instagram. And the lingo is it Instagram worthy? Has that changed sort of the way that people dress? They want something that they're going to take a shot, a picture of right away and post on Instagram?
Well, I think people are tolerant of themselves. And I think if you think back, remember, put your best foot forward. Nobody wants to look ugly. Everybody wants to look their best. Everyone wants to feel that when they put that picture forward or they walk in that room, that they're shining. So I believe that what fashion does for young people today, they care about what they look like, and they care about what they're wearing, and they do have a definitive taste. It's up to us to understand it, and also to understand and absorb what's good for us, because otherwise we're going to become antiques in a museum as opposed to living our lives.
At one point in time, everyone was wearing the same gray flannel suit, and then everyone was wearing jeans. Do you think we're going toward a world where everyone is wearing the same, or a custom bespoke world where everyone has their own unique fashion?
I hope that we all have freedom of expression. And I hope that we're brave enough to put our hand out and know that when people look at us, they look at our eyes and they give us a smile and they feel they're meeting us, that one person, that one individual, and that we're memorable for that. I would feel that it would be I would be very despondent if the world was just everybody wearing a black outfit and a tie around the waist like a monk. It would not make me happy. I would want to express, you go to an art gallery, if every painting was framed and matted the same way, and every artist had his version of one thing, and it was a tree with green leaves and a black trunk, I don't think you'd go back to that museum or art gallery. And I think that every day has to be a fresh day. So we have to have fresh ideas. We have to be confident within ourselves, and we have to be willing to give and share of ourselves. And I think one way we do that is by what we choose to wear and how we see ourselves and express it.
When I'm wearing a button shirt, a jacket, a nice outfit, or even a suit, I do feel more confident.
Well, that's good, because that's what it's intended to do. Otherwise we'd all be walking around naked if the climate let it be that way. But the fact is, we are able to express ourselves and to enhance what we think is positive, and we can get eye contact. I always dress people, I always say, from the head down. I'd like them to know the color of my eyes. I'd like them to remember them for my smile. I don't necessarily want them to remember me for my muffin top.
It's been a pleasure chatting with you, Marilyn. I really appreciate it. If people want to access you, either your radio show and or your services as a fashion consultant, or come to Marilyn's, how do they do that?
Well, they can always go to my website, marilyns.ca. I spell it because everybody spells Marilyn differently. So MARILYNS. Or I give out my phone number and it'll come directly to me. You can leave a message if I'm busy, but I always call people back. 416-504-6777. That's a 40-year-old number. It's never changed. And so far, it always gets you me.
Marilyn Wetston, thank you so much for joining us. I really appreciate this conversation about fashion and about a woman's perspective. Thank you so much.
Thank you for having me. It's been a pleasure to have the conversation. I feel I know you better now.
Thank you. I appreciate it. Stay with us. We're going to come back with some concluding comments in just a minute.